Hey guys, welcome back to the Solidity Basic Course series. In the last video, which is the second video of this series, I had mentioned that we'll start learning about Ethereum in this video, from this video onwards. And then we'll learn the basics of Solidity, okay? But the problem is that this is the regular way. So you go to any other playlist on YouTube about Solidity. This is how they're going to do it. They're going to teach you about Ethereum. They're going to teach you about Solidity. And then they'll start teaching you about Remix IDE and how to work with Solidity on Remix IDE. This is why what I did was I showed you Remix IDE in the second video itself, because what I've realized is that a lot of the people that I know, they just learn this much and then they get bored. They're never able to even start with Solidity on Remix IDE, let alone building in the local environment and let alone deploying to testnet. That's too much into the future. Many people I know, they just stop here because they get bored till here, because there's so much theory to get around with. There's so much theory here that till the time you come to the practical side of things, you are kind of done with Solidity. And I don't want that to happen. And this is why I'm not going to follow the regular way. I'm going to follow a different way. I've given you the Solidity intro, which was the first video in this series. It was a very quick 10,000 feet perspective about Solidity and what it is. And that was before we even learned about Ethereum. So that's why I want to tell you that learning about Ethereum is going to take a while. It's going to take 3-4 videos, and I don't want you to get bored. So that's why I gave you a Solidity intro, that this is the language that we'll be using to build projects on Ethereum, but Solidity is important, and this is what it looks like. And in the second video, which I posted yesterday, it was about the Remix IDE walk around. I give you a very quick walk around about what the Remix IDE, how it works, the characteristics, and we even built a small contract. We deployed it as well, right? We even deployed that contract. Even though you didn't understand much about Solidity, you didn't understand much about what are contracts, what are functions, you didn't understand much about the Remix IDE, but you at least know how this whole ecosystem works. And similarly, in today's video, I want to do something which usually you do at the end of your Solidity course, right? So deploying to a testnet or building in the local environment is something that you do towards the end of your Solidity course, but I want to do it right now. Now, what that means is that this is just a walk around. So today's video, we're actually going to set up our local environment for Solidity, right? And we'll also build a complete project in Solidity and we'll deploy it on the testnet. And what I want you to understand is that this is a walk around. This is not a detailed detailed explanation. It's only going to give you an idea about how the ecosystem works, what are the tools that you use to build on the local environment, what are the tools that you use to deploy on the testnet, just like a 10,000 feet perspective. So it's okay if you don't understand much in today's video. I want you to just sit back, relax, and see what I do, the exact steps, and try to, I just wanted to expose you to this. I just want you to introduce you to this. That's my main agenda for today's video, okay? Because it's completely okay if you don't understand it, because I know that you don't know Ethereum, I know that you don't know Solidity, and I know that you definitely don't know how to work on the local environment and deployment with Solidity, right? And that's what we'll be doing from the next video onwards, which I was supposed to do in this video, by the way. I was supposed to teach you about Ethereum, but I'm not doing that. But all of that will come. You'll learn the basics of Ethereum, you'll learn the basics of Solidity, and you'll learn from ground up what to do with local environments and deployments and all of that. But today, I just want you to sit back and relax, and I want you to give you the exposure of what local environment is, what a testnet is, and how do you how do you work with these technologies. The reason I want to give you an exposure today is that this is a very difficult topic for most Solidity learners, right? I told you that this is where they give up. And if somebody is very determined, this is somewhere around where they give up, right? I don't know many people who actually go ahead and complete learning about Solidity, and this is why I want to change it. I want you to feel very, very comfortable when you look at these kind of things. I don't want you to feel intimidated. This is why we are eating the frog way before than we would have. This is why in the third video itself, I'm going to take you through it. Like I said, don't get confused, don't get intimidated, don't try to understand everything that I do, but just take a step back, relax, and try to see what I'm doing and follow the steps. If you register as much as you register, that's great. If you don't register many things, if you don't understand many things, that's completely okay, because we'll understand these things one by one. But I want to expose you to the most difficult things that you will see towards the end of the series, okay? With that out of the way, now that you have some context, that out of the way, and I hope you appreciate this different approach to things. Now let's get started. Let's actually built this on the local environment. Now you can build for Ethereum on your local environment using multiple languages. You can use JavaScript, you can use Python, Go, Rust. These are the most common ones, at least the ones that I have used. So with JavaScript, you have these two common tools, Hardhat and Truffle plus Ganache. Then for Rust, we have Foundry. For Go, we can interact with the Ethereum nodes using Geth. For Python, we have Brownie. And towards the end of this series, we'll take a look at Geth, we'll take a look at Foundry, take a look at probably Python also with Brownie. In today's video, I want to work with Hardhat. And as you can see, this is like the first tool that I have out of all these, because this is the most easiest to use tool. Hardhat kind of makes developing for Ethereum a breeze, and this is what I want to show you. We'll also be using Truffle and Ganache, but like I said, Hardhat is really modern, at least according to me. It's very simple to build, and you'll see soon why I say that. Then you have some test nets. So when you're building, right, you can build on your local host, or you can build and test on something called as a test net. Now the Ethereum main blockchain is the main net. And if you don't understand this, what I'm saying right now, not a problem, because we'll actually go in all of this detail from the next video onwards when we learn more about Ethereum. All you need to know is that there's a blockchain, the Ethereum mainnet blockchain. Then some people have created some test blockchains as well, which if you deploy to them, they don't have any real world consequences, and they exist for the benefit of developers like us. And today, we'll be deploying on Ropsten. This is the most common testnet. There's so many more, like Coven and so many more. Ropsten is the most easily accessible and the most common one, and we'll be using Ropsten today. Then we'll be using a wallet called MetaMask to be able to deploy to Ethereum. Now, whenever you want to deploy to Ethereum, you have to pay some gas fees. We'll talk about gas fees, don't worry. And what we'll be deploying today is something called as a smart contract. Don't worry if you don't know what smart contracts are or contracts are. I'll describe that to you from next videos anyways, okay? To deploy to these kind of test nets from your local environment, you have some technologies. You have Infura and Alchemy. Both of them are very popular. I use Alchemy a lot, but in today's video, I'll be showing you Infura because it's very, very simple to get started up with, very simple to build with, right? So we'll be working with Infura today. We'll be working with MetaMask today. We'll be working with Robston testnet, and we will be working with Hardhat. So that's a lot of stuff. Right, a lot of different components to get started with, but don't worry guys, like I said, the more you are able to take away from here, the better. But if you don't take away anything, that's completely okay, because all I want to do in today's video is just give you exposure to all of these tools and this whole ecosystem. Okay, so just relax and watch me do this. In case you're wondering what is this tool that I'm using, it's called Obsidian. It's a very beautiful looking tool which helps you to basically write nodes, and I recommend it to all developers. If you are using Windows, then this is a great tool. I'm not sure if it's there on Linux and Mac. I use a lot of Linux, you know that already. But on Windows, when I'm on Windows, this is what I'm using, Obsidian, okay? Now this machine that I'm using today is a completely new custom built PC. And here I'm using Windows 11, but I will be actually using WSL. So a lot of you who have already been watching my videos, you know that I use WSL, which enables me to work with multiple Linux distributions on top of Windows. So anybody who's a Mac user, anybody who's a Linux user, you'll be able to follow along all of these commands very easily. It's going to be the same, this Linux shell. I'm using Linux Ubuntu 20.04. So, and if you're using Windows, then I recommend you use WSL. Highly stable, it's amazing. And all of the commands from Linux and Mac, all of those people, they work here. And generally, if you're a developer, you obviously, you love Ubuntu, right? You probably are not a big fan of Windows. I have to use Windows because I have to edit videos, these videos that I make. So having said that, this is Ubuntu, this is the Ubuntu shell, and we'll be building that. So the earlier tool was called Obsidian for taking notes. Note that down if you want, you can download it. And this is WSL terminal, and now we'll get started. I've increased the font size now so that you can follow along much better. For some of you who already have a lot of programming experience and have been following me along for a while, feel free to follow along, in the sense whatever I'm doing, feel free to do it in your terminal. For people who are not very comfortable with coding, don't stress out too much. It's completely okay. So let's get started. Now here, you can see that I have a folder called development related stuff. I'm going to cd into it, and it's an empty folder. And here I'm going to create a new directory called hands on with Hardhat, and I'm going to cd into it. And just a note that I have Node.js already installed on my machine. In case you don't have Node.js installed, please go ahead and install it. The best way is to use NVM. So I use NVM, which gives me access to multiple Node.js versions, and I can switch around between these versions very easily. I've set my default NVM to NVM is basically Node.js virtual machine. So NVM, I've set it to 16.4.1 default. If you use 18.4, which is the latest version for Node.js, it might not work with Hardhat. It will give you some issues. Okay, it's not supported by Hardhat at least today, which is 7th July 2022. As of today, the 18th version is not supported. 16, any version works really fine with Hardhat. Okay, so if you want to do exactly what I'm doing, use NVM. Like this is general life advice. Always use NVM, because to jump between different Node.js projects, you need different Node.js versions, and NVM helps you to create like a list of Node.js versions. You can switch between them very easily. So I'm using NVM. I'm using Node.js 16.4.1 right now, and that's going to make our development experience a breeze. So I've cd'd into it, and we will create npm project. Now, if you follow along with my Golang videos, this is very similar to Go mod init, and npm init is the same thing. In case you don't have any background in JavaScript, this will basically create a package.json file for you. That's what it says. It's created a package.json file for you. You've initialized an npm project, and in this project, I want to install Hardhat. Takes a while to install Hardhat. So I'm back after having it installed, and you can see I didn't get any errors here, and that's perfect. So here, to check if everything is working fine, you want to say npx hardhat, and if it gives you this kind of an output, that means everything is working perfectly. I want to create an advanced sample project, and this is it's asking me for my Hardhat root. Yeah, that's my root. And it's asking me if I want to add a git ignore file. Yes, why not? And do I want to import all of these plugins? Yes, I do. And again, it'll take a while to create this new project for me. So let me pause this video and come back when it's done. Now, if everything has worked properly, then if you write npx hardhat test, then everything should work perfectly fine, right? So here it says there's an issue, could not determine executable to run. And the reason you see that error is because I didn't write the spelling of Hardhat correctly. It's hard. I've written Hardhat. I should have written Hardhat. And I won't be, even though I'm embarrassed by this, I won't be editing this out from the video, because I want you to understand that everybody makes mistakes, right? And even you might make a mistake here. So I won't edit it out. You'll see this. And then you have, so I ran the Hardhat test, and it said compiled file successfully. There's a greeter with greeting hello world. And when we'll open the code, we'll come to know that there is a contract called greeter, and that's what's basically printing out hello world. So one test is passing. Everything works perfectly fine. Now what you also want to do is you want to say npx hardhat again. And when you do that, you get a lot of options. When you do npx hardhat, you get a lot of options, like, you know, what you can do with Hardhat basically. And we would like to check out the list of accounts. So let's do that. So you'll say npx hardhat accounts. Okay. So let's do that. So we'll say npx hardhat accounts. Print a list of 20 of these accounts. So everything on Ethereum can be segregated into transactions, accounts, and contracts. Right, so any transactions that happen between accounts, any movement of funds or change of state that happens between these accounts is called as transactions. Completely okay if you don't understand anything, right? But accounts are, you can think about, like from a very, very basic perspective, think about accounts as people who have joined the Ethereum network, right? So here, even though these are not people, they're just accounts, so that we can move funds between these accounts. Completely okay if you don't understand this right now. We'll learn about Ethereum and then we'll understand accounts really well. But now what you get is you get these Ethereum accounts that you can work with, these Hardhat accounts, you can work with these in your local environment. So now the most important thing, I want to show you the code. So I'm using VS Code. So with VS Code, you can write just code and dot, and it opens up a VS Code window. And here I have my VS Code. So with VS Code, I've done a lot of fancy things as well. What I've done is I have changed my theme to something called as purple works or something like that. It's called, the theme is called, and it's a pretty beautiful theme. And then I have also added a Solidity plugin. So if you go to extensions, you'll see that I have installed this shades of purple. This is the one I was talking about. Might want to install that, amazing theme. Then I have installed Solidity plus Hardhat, because then if you don't install this, then all of this code will appear to be in white. But you want them to be in different colors so that you can identify which is a function, what is a statement, what is a keyword, all of that. So Solidity helps you do that. This plugin helps you do that. And the other plugins, obviously your Go, which I need. That's what I've done. And then for the transparent effect, I've installed this Glass at VSC plugin. It gives me this nice transparent effect, which makes my VS Code looks awesome, and you guys enjoy these videos more because of that, hopefully. Okay, now you can see that there's a greeter.sol here, greeter.sol, and this is what was printing out hello world. In the previous video where we worked with Remix IDE, we also had a hello world, but that's something we deployed in Remix IDE, right? Here we have done the same, but in our local host. But here you see, when you create a Hardhat project, you get so many things. You can see so many things. The most important things are your package.json, because this is what shows all the plugins, or all the extensions that you're using, or all the npm packages that you're using, external packages. And your Hardhat config, here we'll have to do a few configurations here. We'll do that. Then your contracts folder, and then your test and scripts folder. So for scripts, we'll write a special deployment script on our own. For test, we'll write a special test file. And for contracts, we'll create a new contract. And you won't understand anything that I write in the contract, because for that you need to understand Solidity, and that's completely okay. If you know JavaScript, at least you know how the project is getting built, right? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a file called bookstore.sol. So similarly, just like we created Solidity files in Remix IDE, we can create Solidity files in our contracts folder. This is where all the Solidity code has to be, okay? Just make sure it's there in contracts, because Hardhat then does the heavy lifting of converting the sol, compiling it into ABI and all of that stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste some code here. And what I'll do is I'll leave this project in GitHub so that you can also copy and paste this code. We already saw what this is. We know what this is. We know what contracts are, but we don't know what all of this is, and that's completely okay. And I won't try to explain it to you right now, because I don't want you to get confused. This video is only about how to build on the local environment, how to deploy it, and we'll be learning Solidity, as you already know, in detail later on. Okay, so and this file is saved now. Come to your test folder, create a bookstore test.js file, and in my test file I will write some code that will help me test it. Again, all of this will be available to you in your in a GitHub file. So I've added some test file. I've added this bookstore Solidity code, and this test file is basically going to help me test it. The easy way to do it is you just go here to your terminal and you say, actually let me minimize the one behind so that you get more clarity here. So all you have to do is say npx hardhat test. So 5 all the tests are passing, and everything seems to be okay. And this is my bookstore contract. This is my greeter contract. Both of them are working, and that's perfectly fine. That's working for me. Okay. Now what I'll do is I will start to deploy the contract. To deploy it, so you've seen the steps, right? You've seen the steps that I created the contract, created some tests for it. This is completely optional, by the way. You don't have to do it. But just before we deploy something, it's a good practice to have some test files to be able to make sure the code passed some tests, because you don't want to deploy on, let's say, the main net and have a faulty code. Okay, so it's a good practice to have these test files. For deployment, I want to create a new file called deploy bookstore.js. And this file will have some code related to the deployment. Okay. And now what we'll do is we'll go here and we'll say npx hardhat node. And once we've done that, we will open up another terminal. So let me open them up side by side so it makes more sense to you. Let me minimize this. So here in this terminal, I had entered the code for the command for npm hardhat node, which will help me to deploy my project now. Okay, so that's what's running on this terminal, npx hardhat node. And on this terminal, which I'll make it smaller, I am going to say this. I'm going to say npx hardhat run scripts. In my scripts folder, there's a deploy bookstore.js file. We created it together, and we'll run it on localhost, because on localhost my hardhat node is running, and that will help me to run this program. So when I press enter, I think it takes a while. Sometimes it doesn't take a while actually. Today it is, or maybe I've not entered it properly, something, but let's wait for a couple of seconds and see if we get what we want. We want a response saying that this project has been deployed to, and it will give us a particular address. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're waiting for basically. Okay, so earlier the command wasn't working because I was not in the right directory, and what happened was it started asking me to install Hardhat. So I was waiting for it for a while, and then I paused the video. So I thought I don't want to put you through the pain of waiting along with me. And after I waited for a while, it said install Hardhat, and then I realized that I'm not even in the right folder to be able to run the program. So just make sure that you're in the right program. Again, I won't edit this out. I want you to note that you might also make this mistake. And then you want to add this command, because obviously the scripts folder is in this folder, right? I was at the root folder and I was trying to run this command. It won't work. So you want to run this script folder, deploy bookstore.js, network localhost. And now hopefully it should work, man. Yeah, so it's working. So it says bookstore deployed to a particular address. This is what we wanted. So our project is deployed at least on the localhost node, and everything seems to be working fine. Now what we want to do is we want to deploy it to the test network, the Ethereum test network, and the test network that's in question today is the Infura, Ropsten, and we'll be using Infura to help us to do that. So let's go ahead and create an account on Infura and change our configurations on Hardhat, and let's do it. I want you to go to infura.io, and after you log in or sign up, it'll ask you for a project name, ask you to create a new project, and then you have to put a project name, like I have written here bookstore. Then you get some keys out here. Now you know that we won't be deploying on the main network right now. We want to deploy on the testnet. Testnet, like I said, is a great place to deploy it, to learn, to see how your project actually works on the blockchain before you ever even think about deploying on the mainnet. Mainnet, real money gets involved. Okay, you don't want to do that unless you are very, very sure. So Ropsten is what we want to deploy on, and go ahead and copy this endpoint, this whole link, copy that. Then I want you to install MetaMask for your Chrome browser, and after you end up creating your account, you already might have an account, or you will have to create a new account. It's very simple, straightforward process. Just do it. And then you want to select the Robston test network. It's possible that it just shows you Ethereum mainnet. It doesn't show you all these other test networks. And if that is the case, you might have to go and change settings. I think in the settings, you'll have to somewhere mention that you want to show test networks. So once you select that, you will be able to see all the test networks like Robston and all. Otherwise, you'll just see the Ethereum mainnet. So in this case, I have selected my Robston test network, and you can see I have some Ethereum in my Robston test network. This is not real Ethereum, guys. Please don't get fooled. Real Ethereum, I have way more real Ethereum, but I won't be spending it here on this project. So for your test network, you need test Ethereum, and you get that the Robston relevant Ethereum, you get it on a Robston Faucet. So faucets are programs that basically give you these test Ethereum amount so that you can run these projects, test these projects. So let me show you how to do that, how to get it. You want to go to Google and search for Robston Faucet. Click on the first one that you see, and from your MetaMask, you will copy this account. This is your account ID. So account, basically, like you can see now what an account is, right? It's an account which holds some amount of Ethereum, and this account belongs to me. I can have multiple accounts. So it's not necessary that I just have one account. So accounts are not really people, but accounts belong to people. They can belong to people. So I've copied my account ID. I'll go ahead and paste it here, and I'll tell it to give me Robston ETH. So when you click on this, you get Robston ETH in about half an hour time. I already have it, so I don't need more for testing, because it deducts a very small amount. It doesn't deduct like 1 ETH or something like that. It deducts like 0.002 or something like that. Okay, so once you have your ETH in your MetaMask, you will go ahead, click on this account details, and you will click on and you'll get that ID. Actually, my ID is showing. I don't want to show it for too long on my screen. I don't want people to be using my ID, but feel free to go ahead and do it, because from this MetaMask account, I don't do much anyways, and also this is my Robston account. So even if you copy it and if you do all of that stuff, if you try to hack it and all, not a problem. So like I said, you want to go account details and copy this one quickly. Just copy that one, and these two things we'll require, right? We'll require that account, that private key. That's basically your private key for your account, and we need the Infura endpoint for Ropsten. These two things we'll need to be able to deploy it on using an Infura, using Hardhat onto Ropsten testnet. These are the three things that we'll be doing. Okay, so going back in my VS Code, what I need to do now is I need to go to my hardhat config.js file. I'll close off all the other files, and hardhat config is going to change slightly. So I'll copy and paste this entire code, and this is what you have to do. You have to find this file in my GitHub, and you just want to copy and paste whatever you find in this file here. It's essentially what I'm doing in this file is that I'm not getting all those things from the environment file. I'm just like hard coding them here, right? So that's all those are the kind of changes I've made. So it's going to basically have private key directly, and API URL is going to get it directly from here. API URL, it says API key, but I've shown you where to get it from, the Infura, the Ropsten endpoint. So I'll just copy and paste and put mine there out here along with the API key. And my private key, you've already seen it by now, and I'll have to get rid of this account, but this is anyways my Robston key, so you can't really do much here. So this is my private key for my Robston account, and that's about it. Actually, that's about it. All you have to do now is you have to open up your terminals. So there were these two terminals, right, earlier, one where this whole thing is running, the node is running. So I'll keep it minimized for now. And this one is where I will run. Here I had run the command for running it on my local host, right? And now I will run the command for running it on the Ropsten network. So here was network localhost. Now it is network Robston. Make sense? Now we'll go ahead and run it. Let's see if we get any issues or errors or whatever. And again, we should see bookstore deployed to and an account ID, an address. That's what we should see. So we'll wait for a while. Okay, one quick thing. Because I was trying to protect my account from you guys, I ended up copying my account ID. That's not what you should copy. You should be copying the private key, export private key. And here I'll put in my password, okay, and I will copy that key. I'm not going to show it to you. And copy that key. Don't copy the account address by mistake, okay? So because I was getting this error, that invalid account, that's because by mistake I had copied my account key rather than my private key. And now I've changed that in my VS Code. So now again, I'll try to run it. And now hopefully it will work. So we'll wait a while again. So you can see now it was deployed to this address. And it's deployed to the Robston network, which is awesome. This brings a closure to our project for today. Now, just to sum it up, we saw how to work with Solidity. We worked with Hardhat today. We set everything up in our local environment, along with the local blockchain that we interacted with, deployed the contract locally. And so what we made here was a smart contract with Solidity. And we used MetaMask, we used Infura to interact with Robston testnet. We learned how to work with faucets. Then we know what are testnets and mainnets. So now that you've seen all of this in practice, everything will be very easy for you to understand. And if you have followed along with me for this entire video, I want to say congrats. You have a lot of patience. And even though this is like really intimidating, you are still able to go through the whole thing. And now when we actually talk about these concepts, they will make much more sense to you, even if you didn't understand much today. And it's completely okay if you were not able to follow along with me in the project, if you didn't understand the code. That's completely okay because I didn't explain the code to you anyways. Because we'll be learning about Ethereum from the next video onwards. About what it does and all of that, and then we learn the basics of Solidity, and then we learn the basics of all the tools we used, like we used Hardhat and all those tools. We learn all the basics, and you'll have a really solid knowledge. But what I didn't want to happen was that you just lost yourself in theory and never actually got to understand what the ecosystem is and how developers actually work. So now you have exposure to that, and that's very valuable experience, right? You'll thank me later about that for that. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Do subscribe. Obviously, this is awesome content, right? And keep watching this channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.